Hey, what is going on? What's happening? Ray Higdon here, and I'm here with my friend Gary Brecka. How are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Now, Gary is one of the smartest people I know. He also sits on the health advisory board for the NFL Alumni Association, which is a very difficult. It's like 2 years of vetting.
Yeah, it was a pretty long, arduous process, difficult process. They don't just let you carry that shield. They're pretty protected.
And he also runs Streamline Medical.
Yeah,
right?
Streamline Wellness.
Right? Streamline Wellness.
Streamline Wellness.
And just again, very smart. And so there's this thing. I know only a handful of you have heard of it, but there's this thing called coronavirus. No, I mean,
Corona Light.
Yes, I don't know. Premier. But like you, I'm being inundated with coronavirus stuff. We're seeing it everywhere. The NBA canceled their season. As a speaker, I'm seeing events being canceled, South by Southwest, all kinds of different things. And I see two classifications of people. We have the preppers, right, that are sharpening their survival knives and putting stakes out front for the zombie apocalypse. And then we have the others saying, hey man, well, the flu kills lots of people too. And so where is the reality, right? I mean, I mean, 3,200 people a day die from car accidents. Why aren't we banning? You know what I mean? It seems like there's two levels of crazy, not a lot of a middle, and I don't even know where you sit. So I'm saying this, and maybe we should be prepping. I don't know, but I wanted to bring on someone who I just really respect. One of the smartest dudes I know. I know that when you research a topic, you go crazy insane on it. And so he's probably going to say some things that I don't comprehend, and he'll have to tell me later. But I'm real excited to have you on. So Gary, how you doing?
Yeah,
man?
awesome, man. Thank you for having me.
Good?
I really appreciate it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Yeah, we're supposed to do the ankle.
Okay.
That's the new coronavirus.
Right. I go with
that actually brings
like
me to my very first point. To be honest with you, I'm like you. I think that people really fall into kind of two camps.
Right.
Although I don't know if I would call them the preppers and like doomsdayers and the naysayers. I would say that the analogy that I prefer to use is that we know that there's a war coming, right? And there's two positions that you can take. You could hide and hope the enemy doesn't find you.
Sure.
Or you could weapon up.
Yeah.
Right? And
I like that. Yeah.
And you could have a knife, you could have a gun, or you could have a bazooka.
Yeah.
I would prefer to have a bazooka.
Yeah.
And by taking one of those sides, what I mean is, if you know that there is a viral spread, which is clearly what's happening with coronavirus, there's no question that 30 to potentially 70% of the population will be exposed to this virus.
Now, what makes you say that? What's that from?
Because it's reaching the stage of what they call pandemic, right?
Okay.
So there are very few places that you can go right now where you are not going to very likely be exposed to the virus. Now, there's a difference between exposure and being inoculated with the virus.
Right.
And so the one school of thought where I say, that there's a war coming, so you should hide. Hiding to me is where you start cleaning your surfaces and you hope that the public transportation cleans the handrail that the bus has, or that public transportation is being disinfected and they're canceling all of these events. That is hoping the enemy doesn't find you.
Right.
It's hoping that the virus somehow doesn't find you.
Right.
I think that's a really poor bet.
I wouldn't. This is good to hear.
I would not take that bet.
Yeah.
Should you clean the surfaces in your house? Sure. Should you try to avoid contact? These are airborne viruses. They pass through the mucosal membrane. They also pass through the lining of the eye. Since they're moisture droplets, they travel about 28 inches. So if you're more than 28 inches away from someone who's talking to you, the moisture actually doesn't reach your body. It does not survive very long on surfaces, but the bet that you will disinfect your way out of this, I think, is a really poor bet.
Okay.
The other side is to weapon up.
Yeah.
And what I mean by weapon up is we should arm our immune system.
Right.
The best possible counterattack we have for not just the coronavirus, not just COVID-19, but all of the influenza viruses and other viruses for that matter, are how will our immune system deal with that assault. Right now, the immunocompromised are at the greatest risk. right? But if you're immunosuppressed, you're also at risk. And the question is, are you...
What's the difference?
So immunosuppressed means that your immune system's not functioning at its highest capacity.
Okay.
And so the question becomes, how do we bolster our immune system?
Right.
And there's a lot of nonsense and noise out there.
And quite frankly, I wish more people were talking about this, because everyone's talking about, we're out of disinfectant and Purell and Lysol.
Everyone's trying to hide.
I traveled from Detroit on Saturday, and I've never experienced this, where almost every person is wiping the seats, and I get into first class and a lady hands me a spray, and that is a passenger. So
right.
Here, and I'm just like, okay, and their wipes are everywhere, and you go to Costco, they're handing you a wipe. And,
right.
And I wish more people were like, here, pop this vitamin C or something.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No
like,
question. The whole run and hide is like,
Yeah.
okay, well, let's disinfect public transportation. Okay, so let's take a disinfectant wipe and wipe down the grab bar in a public bus.
Right.
As soon as the next hand goes onto that grab bar, it's instantly not sterile anymore.
Or even steps in.
Yeah, or even steps in.
Into the thing 28 inches. You're saying.
If there's a 70% chance you're going to be exposed,
Yeah.
I would prepare for exposure.
Yeah.
I wouldn't take the lesser bet that I'm actually not going to come in contact with the virus. And in doing so, in prepping for the coronavirus. And by the way, what's so special about the coronavirus if you don't know why
what is? Like, because some people say, well, 20,000 people die, already died this year from the flu.
Influenza.
Like, is that a valid, to me it seems apples and oranges.
Well, it's a little apples and oranges. So the flu, we have a vaccine for the flu, and the flu is influenza, is a human-borne virus. Okay. This is a virus that crossed over. It crossed over from the animal kingdom into human beings.
Okay.
MERS did that. SARS did that. The SARS virus, the MARS virus. So there are viruses etiologically that have mutated and been able to transfer from being an animal-borne virus into human beings, and that's what COVID-19 did.
Okay.
And it makes it a little more capable of sneaking past our first line of defense, right?
Okay.
So in human body, we've got an immune system, and it's really made up of all of these natural killer cells and white blood cells, and it kind of reminds me of a scene from Braveheart, right?
Okay.
You look up on the hill, and there's just lines of soldiers ready to fight, and they line up in a very specific way, right? First you got the guys that shoot the arrows, and then you got the guys on horseback, and then you got the guys in their back that have a knife and they'll just stab anything. Well, your front line defense is your strongest, right? Your white blood cells, your eosinophils, your leukocytes, your monocytes, what's called killer T cells. Those are right up there in the front, and they're ready for the fight. If you get through that line of defense, you start to deploy a deeper and deeper and deeper immune response. And what happens with COVID-19 is it sort of quietly slips past the first line of defense. And when it ignites the
so your initial defense doesn't recognize it? It's like, go on through.
Doesn't recognize it. You start to
ID.
have symptoms, and then the rest of the immune system turns and starts to fight backwards. It's almost like the enemy runs around behind you and attacks from behind. It's the best analogy that I can think of. So it doesn't solicit the same level of autoimmune response that we get in most exposure to viruses. So
is it more, because of that, or maybe something else, is it more deadly? Is it more communicable?
It's not that it's more deadly. It's that if it sneaks behind the flank and begins to fight your guys in the rear, you got to have time for the front guys to turn around and get into the fight. And so if you're not immunocompromised, you will probably run the same course of symptomology that you would with influenza.
Okay.
If you're immunocompromised, meaning that you have suppressed immune function, not healthy killer T cells, you have a suppressed white blood cell count, or some kind of autoimmune
disease, right?
Or you're in oncology treatment, or you're the elderly, then your immune system responds more slowly, and the virus spreads. Here's an interesting...
So it digs in the trenches.
Digs in the trenches
before you can react, and it may be too late.
Yes. I mean, do you realize that in the human genome, I mean, just so you know how prevalent viruses are in our body right now, if you were to take any cell in the human body, and you were to pull the DNA out of that cell, and you were to open that DNA, you would find, and this is true in you and me and every human being watching this, only 60% of the DNA in your body belongs to you. The other 40% of your DNA is foreign DNA. It's viral DNA. You have viruses in you right now that are in what's called the latent phase.
Wow.
Right? The lytic phase of a virus is where the virus is active, right? That's why if you've ever heard of somebody when they were 8, 9 years old, they got mononucleosis, and then as an adult in their 40s, they got something called Epstein-Barr. Well, how the heck did I get a virus that I had when I was 8 years old when I'm 42? Because as your DNA replicates and continues to replicate, what happens is transcription errors occur, and that virus that's been laying latent now becomes lytic, and it starts to give you symptoms. And so the same thing that we can do to prevent that from happening, we can do to bolster our immunity for the coronavirus. We can use to bolster our immunity for influenza and every other virus for that matter. And 70% to 80% of our total autoimmune response, does anyone know where that comes from in the body? Just take a guess.
My guess would be
80% of our immunity.
My guess would be gut.
Comes from the gut.
Yeah.
Bam. That's a coronavirus. We're going to be armed. So.
Okay.
So
We're
80%
fine.
of
We're
it comes
fine.
from the gut. And so, how important are probiotics to that defense? If you look at how the gut fights bacteria, disease, and viral attacks, the endothelial lining of the gut actually has lymph nodes. There are lymph nodes all throughout the lining of the gut, and you have a lining over top of those called the endothelial lining. And in there are a special type of cell called natural killer cells, T cells. These things are nasty. Viruses hate them. They seek them out and kill them. If you can bolster the immunity scale of your gut, you are 70% of the way to putting yourself in an in a non-immunosuppressed position to be able to battle this virus. And how do you do that? You take a probiotic. And
Not an antibiotic.
not an antibiotic.
Because that actually does the opposite, right?
Just think of the word anti.
Right, exactly.
Biotic, yes.
Well, and I know that so many doctors, you go in, you're like sniffle, like antibiotic.
Yes.
Right? I mean, it's overprescribed. Would you agree?
Yes.
And so, do you feel that antibiotics may be about the worst thing you can do right now?
Antibiotics, unless your immune system cannot keep up with the virus. See, if you've got to bring an army in from outside to help your soldiers fight,
Right.
then at that point you have to do what you have to do. If you have
So it may help.
a
you're saying.
life-threatening fever, if you have a response where your body actually can't handle it, but if
Okay.
you get the sniffles and run a mild fever, or you get a little bit of diarrhea, or your stomach's a little upset, or your brain fog or muscle achy for a day or two, that's not a call for antibiotics.
Got it.
That's a call for fluids in the back of your immune system. And probiotics in the gut. The thing about probiotics is where most people go wrong is probiotics they set up in the gut. Remember I said the immune system lines up in a specific way to fight?
Right.
Well, so it has a certain role. Probiotics do the same thing in the gut. So in other words, if you took the pH of the stomach, the pH of the proximal small intestine, the pH of the proximal large colon, and the distal colon, and you were to map the pHs, okay, bacteria settle in the neighborhoods where they match their pH. So if you're a more acidic bacteria,
right.
you're going to be up close to the proximal end of the small intestine, right where the stomach empties, because you don't mind stomach acid. If you like a more alkaline environment, in which bifidobacteria, lactobacillus acidophilus, those bacteria inoculate and populate in the distal colon. So the important thing for us to do is to spread the probiotic throughout the colon. And there are a few manufacturers that make probiotics that actually have a capsular technology. Because when you take most probiotics, let's say you take 30 billion strains. Okay?
Sure.
All right.
Because you see them everywhere. Everyone has probiotics.
28 billion of those bacteria cannot survive stomach acid. So what happens when I swallow a capsule? If it's not pH dependent, what happens when I swallow a $30 billion capsule and it hits the gut? They're all dead. Not a single bacteria inoculates the distal colon. And that's why people take probiotics for years and years and years and years and never see any resolution to their gut symptoms. Because you're not putting the bacteria in the right neighborhood, right? It's just like if you were different nationalities, and the Italians didn't want to live with the Irish, and the Irish didn't want to live with the Mexicans. The Mexicans didn't want to live with this group. They all wanted to live together. Bacteria are they colonize like that.
Right.
They stick together. And so if you put them in the wrong neighborhood, they'll just die. And so I brought some probiotics with me today. I bought in mass from a manufacturer, and I am is selling them out of the clinic at a discount to retail because I don't want to take advantage of the panic. So if you want to get probiotics from us, you're welcome to.
Yeah.
If not, I can send everybody links to things that you can get on Amazon that have this capsular technology.
I mean, can you? I'm just curious, and then we'll come back to that. Can you get probiotics in food, like as yogurt? Is that crazy?
You can get prebiotics in food, and you can get cultured yogurts. But the problem is, again, what happens when you take those cultured, like kefir and yogurts? You eat those yogurts, and yes, it does contain prebiotics and probiotics, but then it hits the stomach acid, and it's gone. See, it's not what makes it into your body; it's what makes it into serum concentration. Right? And so it doesn't matter, for example, the concentration of a vitamin. It matters what the percentage of that vitamin that gets into the bloodstream.
Gets absorbed.
Right? And that's the problem with the supplement manufacturing industry, which I don't want to go on that tangent, but truth in advertising says if this capsule is supposed to have 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C, to be truthful, it has to have 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C. You can absorb 0 and still meet your marketing requirements by the FDA.
Right.
So what good is that?
Right.
And a lot of times these vitamins and nutrients are packed in plant sterols, which we can't digest. It's like celery. And so it just right out the back door. So the 3 things that you can do to bolster your immune system. And I mean, doing this today, right? Because let's just assume that we're going to take the side of the argument that we're not going to hide. Yeah. Right. And hope the virus doesn't find us. I think that's a very poor position to take.
And I love everything you're saying, because it's really about, and I have nothing to do with health and wellness, guys. Like I don't have supplements. We coach a lot of people in health and wellness.
I don't have supplements either, by the way. Yeah. I mean, and I'm not here to sell supplements. I will sell you the supplements that I'm going to recommend today. Sure. But you also don't need to get those from me. And I'm going to sell them below retail because I think we need to do the right thing to put people in position.
Absolutely. But I love that you're talking about how do we make us stronger versus what's going to be the trend of the world, because we don't know, man.
No.
We don't know what's going to happen. With flights, with hotels, with events, with whatever. But control what you can control, because the media, and this is something people need to get. The media is for profit.
Yeah,
they're a for-profit company.
Yeah,
and they get profit when they get your attention. And right now, a lot of people, I think, are getting sicker and sicker just because they're stressed and have anxiety. And
one of the reasons why so many, by the way, they say there's so many cases that are going unreported. Yeah, there's so many cases going unreported because those people don't even need to go to the hospital. They don't even need medical attention. Right. They have the coronavirus.
Because it's not like you get coronavirus and you're like, you better go to the hospital.
We don't exactly know how many people get infected every year by influenza because they don't report it. They don't go to urgent care. They don't go to the hospital. Yeah. And the same thing is true with coronavirus. I think if the coronavirus has done anything good for humanity, it's just woken us up to the fact that we need to bolster our own immune system so that we can fight this virus. And in fact, it absolutely begins with the gut. Yeah. If you're putting a good probiotic strain into your gut and you're putting your gut in a position to be in the first line of defense, you're 70% of the way to closing the gap on your immune system being able to completely ward off this virus. Okay. And the other 2 things are vitamins A, D, and K. Okay. Those 3 in a very specific combination. Why those 3? They're fat soluble vitamins, but think about this for just a moment. There's hundreds of vitamins in your bloodstream right now, but your body's only capable of making a single vitamin. A human being can only make 1 vitamin. So if you believe in God, you believe that He created us with the ability to make 1 vitamin. If you believe in evolution, you believe that we evolved to be able to create 1 vitamin. But either way, this is so important to human function. It is the foundation not only for all of our hormonal construction, our autoimmune function, for bone health. There is not a single cell in the human body that doesn't have a receptor site for this vitamin. Okay, and it's vitamin D3, cholecalciferol. We can make it from sunlight and cholesterol.
That's the only thing we can make?
That is the only vitamin that a human being can make. That is the only vitamin that we can make. We don't make B vitamins, we don't make vitamin C, we don't make any other vitamin.
Didn't know that.
So think about how important that is to human function. In fact, I used to be in population mortality. If you look at the...
that sounds great. You were mass killing people?
I was mass killing people, yes. Yes, right. I'm running from the law on Facebook. No, population mortality is where I would take your medical records and I would tell the insurance company. Yeah, I was in insurance. I would tell the insurance company how many years you had to live. Yeah. Actually, how many months you had to live. But if you look at population mortality, the longest life expectancy is centered around the equator of the Earth. And the reason why you get about 20 degrees latitude away from the equator of the Earth. And then for every 20 degrees further you go away, you get a precipitous drop in life expectancy.
Really?
Until you get to the poles, where Eskimos have the shortest life expectancy of any human.
Wow.
Yeah. Why?
That's
Lack of
incredible.
sun exposure.
How incredible is that? Is
Lack
that
of sun
cool? Are you guys learning some amazing stuff here? And
Lack
by
of
the way, a lot of your people are concerned about this. Let's help them get healthier, because it makes no sense. One of my friends pointed this out of, the person that went to the store and bought all the sanitizer. It's like, well,
terrible.
Don't you want other people to sanitize too?
It's
Not
not
just
even
you.
like you want other people sanitize too, but I mean, you got to stop hiding.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
Stop hiding. It's
but
going
let's
to find
also-
you. It's going to
Let's
find
also boost everyone
Right.
else's immune system too. So feel free to share this if you'd like. That is just so interesting. So the farther you get away from the equator, the shorter
life
the lifespan.
expectancy.
Wow,
gets.
that's
And
crazy.
if you look at, and then if you go culture by culture, if you look at like Middle Eastern cultures, especially where women completely garb up,
Yeah.
and they get virtually no sun except maybe what little gets in through
Right.
their eyes. You'll see the highest incidence of brittle bone disease, rampant osteopenia,
Wow.
osteoporosis.
That's amazing.
Oh,
I've never
joint
heard that.
diseases.
I've never heard that.
Diabetes, all sorts of things, and autoimmune compromise.
Yeah.
So the foundation of our immune system is the gut. So if we take a good probiotic, especially with a technology that will distribute the probiotic throughout the entire colon, you're 70% of the way. You need to be taking a minimum of 5,000 IUs of vitamin D3 daily. And if you combine K2 with vitamin D3, then it will transport the calcium into the bone and keep it out of the arterial wall.
Wow.
Okay? If a woman takes about 80 micrograms of K2 daily with a vitamin D3 supplement, she will never get osteoporosis.
Wow.
And
Holy
then,
moly.
in addition to that, believe it or not, the Journal of Leukocytic Biology, and only geeks know what leukocytes are, but there's a Journal of Leukocyte Biology. And this is a molecular biology journal. I subscribe to it. And essentially in that journal, they were able to prove that omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids bolster the immune system because they specifically target the killer T cells. They support killer T cell function. And so if you're on a good omega-3, omega-6 fatty acid supplement, try to find one that comes from the green-lipped mussel. I know it sounds a weird source, but the green-lipped mussel is widely researched as the best source of omega fatty acids.
Wow.
Like by a long shot.
Yeah.
So you want a good probiotic with enough strains and technology to distribute throughout the gut. You want 5,000 IUs of vitamin D3 daily with K2 and vitamin A. And you want to be taking a good omega-3, omega-6 fatty acid. If you want those three, I'm happy to give them to you. If you want places in Amazon where you can get them, I will send you links. The purpose was not to come here today to sell supplements.
Sure.
The purpose was to tell you how to arm yourself for battle, right?
Yeah.
And
Against the coronavirus.
Yeah.
Because I saw someone commented, they said, can we get back to the coronavirus already?
Sorry, back to the coronavirus.
But I just want to point out, he's given you suggestions so that you're armed better against coronavirus. So,
Yes.
like,
if you want
but,
to just talk about the
if
virus
you want to just
itself,
talk about fear,
No,
like,
I'll talk about
the
the replication
Yeah.
cycle of it. It did jump from animals to human beings. It does slip past the first line of defense in most people. For that reason, it's a little extra nasty. If you're not immunocompromised, you really don't have anything to worry about. If you are immunosuppressed, and you may not even know this, then you do have something to worry about. You're going to have worse symptoms.
What's an example of immunosuppressed?
Immunosuppressed would be somebody that doesn't have a healthy gut.
Okay.
So
How would they know that?
Well, 50% of the world's population is clinically deficient in vitamin D3.
Okay. So only
If you're not
50%
getting
only
regular
50% of
sun,
you.
if you're not getting regular sun and you're not supplementing with vitamin D3, you are clinically deficient, period. And if you're
Wow.
African American or Latino or Puerto Rican, or you have very olive complected, the darker the skin, the more difficult it is for you to convert sunlight
Really?
and cholesterol
I didn't
into
know
D3.
that.
Yes, the darker your pigment, the less sun you actually
I was always
absorb.
told the sweeter the berry. No, that's not medical.
I don't know what that means, but stop hitting on me, Ray.
That's not medical fact. Got it.
But and so D3 with K2 and vitamin A, a probiotic, and an omega-3, omega-6 fatty acid, preferably from the green-lipped mussel. That will take your immune system from having a knife to having a rifle to literally having a bazooka, and it will not only ward off the thwart that is very certainly coming from the coronavirus, but every other virus that would attack you. The final thing that I'll tell you.
This is the third thing.
No, those were the three.
We covered
things.
okay.
Probiotic,
Probiotic.
D3 with K2.
D3, K2.
With vitamin A, and an omega fatty acid.
Got it.
Those are the three things that you need to do now to bolster your immune system.
Right. And do you feel that, like, if you get those things, getting those things, are you, like, as far as the safety concerns of, you know, like, I mean, we had a neighborhood block party canceled, and it's like, okay, now everyone goes to the restaurant.
Let's hide from the virus.
So everyone's going.
Like it's not there. Let's hide.
Everyone's going to the restaurants.
Let's...
More people. Right. So do you feel confident that if you're boosting your immune system, doing those things, that you feel like most people are going to be exposed anyway? This at least arms you.
Here's the other thing that I'll explain to you. There's something called single dose toxicity and cumulative toxicity, and essentially what that means is you are either exposed to the virus or you're not. Let me repeat that. You're either exposed to the virus or you're not. What does that mean? That means that if I didn't go to any of these big group events where the likelihood is that I would be exposed. Right. But I have a dinner party and my neighbor has the virus, it only takes a single exposure. It only takes a single moisture droplet, which is not even visible to the human eye, to hit your mucosal membrane to be inoculated with the virus. Virus's replication factor is many, many times more than bacteria. And a virus doesn't ask permission. A bacteria, when it comes up to your cell wall, the cell has to invite it in, and it can kill it. Like a virus doesn't ask permission. It's a ghost. Like it's so small, it just walks right through the cell wall, right? And it can go right into the DNA. It wanders around, it does whatever it wants in the human biome. You know, it's like if I was walking around your house just passing through walls. And so the chances of you not being exposed are a fraction of the chance of you being exposed in the next 7 months. It's going to reach pandemic levels in 2 weeks. It's going to peak in 3 months, and then they think it's going to take 7 to 9 months to run its course. So that you should prepare to be exposed and not prepare to hide. Right? And because your house can be as sterile as you want your house to be the second you go to Publix and buy groceries, or the second that you go to...
Or the mailman opens the door.
You know, mailman, or you go out to the mail and grab the mailbox. I mean, so I would rather put people in the position to be prepared for the exposure and not try and hide. And so if you do those three things. The last thing that I'll say, and this is a little more sophisticated, but, you know, back to our DNA. Our DNA is 40% viral and 60% human DNA. You're welcome to look that up. That's a very valid fact. When our DNA is replicating and when we are exposed to viruses, the way that we properly replicate the DNA is through something called methylation. There is a gene deficiency called MTHFR. If you have a chance, write that down. MTHFR, methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase. 50% of the world's population has this gene mutation. Okay, MTHFR. 50% of the people watching this Facebook Live have this gene mutation. So what happens when you have this gene mutation? It's not only an inability to methylate folic acid, but because it is part of a methylation pathway that leads to the production of something called glutathione, the most powerful antioxidant in the human body, produced by the liver, it lowers your immunodex. It crushes your immune profile. How might you know that you have this? 3 big characteristics. If you have had anxiety for your lifetime, on and off throughout your lifetime, and you cannot tell the trigger for that anxiety. In other words, if you're claustrophobic and you step onto a crowded elevator, I would expect you to have an anxiety attack.
Sure.
If you're afraid of heights and you step onto a balcony and look over and look down, I'd expect you to have an anxiety attack. If you have suffered on and off from anxiety and depression throughout your lifetime, there's a very, very good chance that you have MTHFR. Secondly, if you get colds and flus very often, or if you have something called idiopathic hypertension, which is a fancy word for hypertension of an unknown origin, high blood pressure, but we don't know why. It's very likely coming from homocysteine. So if you really want to bulletproof your immune system and you really want to stop your anxiety and depression at the same time, I'm linking the immune system to the anxiety and depression through this MTHFR gene mutation. There's a cheek swab test you can do. And it'll identify that gene, and then you supplement specifically for that gene. Not only will it take your anxiety and depression symptoms down virtually to zero, but it will also turn your immune system back on.
Wow.
Because the likelihood of you being susceptible to a viral attack when you have MTHFR is substantially higher than somebody who does not have that gene mutation.
Got it. I saw a question, and I want to get to where I want you to talk about supplements, talk about where people can get that. One of the comments, because I've heard something like this before, they said, hey, if you're on blood thinners, be careful taking vitamin K.
No. There's 3 forms of K. K2 does not interfere with the blood thinners, so that's a common misnomer. So you can take vitamin K2. You actually want to be cautious of the other forms of the K vitamin.
Okay.
Right? It's just like B12. B12 has 4 forms.
Okay.
Some of us can't methylate certain compounds of B12. I actually saw a research article lately that said that high levels of B12 have been linked to cancer. And
wow.
I just...
Who would guess that?
I just grabbed my head because I said, I know how people are thinking about that. They think high B12 is linked to cancer. The reason why the B12 was high in the people that had cancer was because they couldn't methylate. They couldn't use the B12. They couldn't bring the B12 into the cell, and therefore it accumulated in the blood. So it wasn't the high B12 that caused the cancer.
Right.
It was the lack of B12 that caused the cancer.
Wow.
Because they couldn't bring the B12 into the cell. If they switched the form of B12 from like a cyanocobalamin or adenosylcobalamin to a methylcobalamin, then that B12 level in the blood would have dropped because all that B12 was moving into the cell. I literally have goosebumps telling you that.
That's unbelievable.
And the reason why I have them is because...
How many people are going to screw that up?
It just frightens me because now people are like, oh my God, my B12 supplement could cause cancer. No, your lack of B12 methylation can cause cancer because you're not bringing the B12 into the cell.
Right. Wow.
So those kinds of things just drive me crazy because they publish this and then, all these bro science websites will pick it up and say, wow, B12 linked to cancer.
Did you say bro science?
Bro science, like, bro.
Bro science.
I battle these guys all the time online. Because, we need sound scientific rationale for what we do.
Sure.
I don't recommend supplementation without a rationale for it.
Sure.
And so, in any case, that's the B12
Okay.
article.
So, one, can you see why I had this guy on? I mean, he's just brilliant, just a genius. Where can people follow you? Where can they find more information from you?
You can follow me at Gary Brecka, at GaryBrecka. I don't sell anything on Instagram.
Instagram. Okay, Instagram, Gary Brecka. Okay.
I'm the CEO of Streamline Wellness, so you can go to www.streamlinewellness.com. You can direct message me if you want me to send you a supplement package or give you a supplement recommendation. I would do both for you for free. Or you
I get a high five from Gary, and I like Gary, and I know that he helps people. I'm not an affiliate or anything like that.
We did get free supplements.
But he did bring me some gifts.
I did bring him, Jessica,
So that's it. Talk about these.
So that's the, this is the one that we sell from Common Sense. This, it will be more expensive to buy it direct than if you buy it through us. But this was designed by a very good friend of mine named Dr. Derek De Silva. He's a board-certified internist. He's been in the supplement business for 31 years.
Okay.
One of the most incredible internists and brilliant minds that I've ever met. This is the omega-30, meaning there's 30 different types of omega fatty acid in here. And this does come from the green-lipped mussel. I'm not saying that you have to take this one, but I would suggest if you are going to get an omega fatty acid, get one that has green-lipped mussel.
Green-lipped mussel. Okay.
The second one is what's called Belly Buddies. The thing that I like about this one is that this has capsular technology that does not allow the probiotic to be destroyed in the gut, in the stomach, and it will layer the probiotics out through the entire small and large intestine according to their pH.
Okay.
This is the fastest way to inoculate your gut.
Wow.
And bolster your immune system. Remember, 70% of our immune defense comes from the gut.
Wow.
If you don't have a healthy gut, there's no chance at putting up a good immune response. And this is vitamins A, D, and K.
Okay. The right forms, the K2 you said.
Yes, the K2. What's unique about these 3 types of vitamins is they're fat soluble, so these should be taken with food. In other words, if you take them with food, especially if the food has a little bit of fat, as it exits the stomach, gallbladder pulses bile, and can bioactivate those.
Nice.
So this is vitamins A, D, and K in a very specific combination. So you're getting the cholecalciferol, the vitamin D3.
Okay.
Again, you don't have to take this specific one. I
Sure.
love this one.
Sure.
And it's priced like every other one on the internet, but make sure that you get an A, a D, and a K. Minimum 5,000 IUs of vitamin D3. I would prefer that people take 10,000, but it's very,
Being that
very
it's
safe.
fat soluble, can't you overdo it?
It's fat soluble. You can overdo it.
Yeah.
It's very unlikely that you reach a toxic level of vitamin D3 through oral supplementation.
Okay.
Unless you are basking in the sun on a regular basis and over
And
supplementing
popping
with D3.
Got it.
Very, very difficult to
Okay.
do. But those are your weapons for your immune system. You give that to your body, it will do you a justice in defending you.
Talk about, thank you, man. That's
Well-
awesome. Talk about you kind of whizzed right through it. You said they believe that it's going to get worse before it gets better as far as
Yes.
the hysteria around coronavirus and,
Yes.
and it running its course. Talk a little bit more about that because you kind of whizzed right through it.
So
in
let's
9 months.
talk about the hysteria, and I also
Yeah.
want to talk about latency and lytic phases because
Okay.
this is super important. By the way, here's the bad news. I'll give you the bad news first. Once you get the virus, you're very likely to get the virus again. Once you get the virus, you're very likely to get the virus again because
Specifically the coronavirus, or you say
Specifically
any
the
virus?
coronavirus.
Oh, specifically
yeah,
coronavirus.
and sometimes the lytic phase when it comes back is actually that infection is worse than the first infection.
Well, that sucks.
And so it does suck, but it also bolsters the reason for us to improve our immune profile.
Right.
Because the immune system not only fights the virus, but when if the virus were to join our DNA, it will silence the virus. And it can silence the virus for a lifetime. There are people right now watching this Facebook Live that had mononucleosis when they were a kid, and don't take this the wrong way, but inside you right now, that virus is still in there, right? And it's in what they call the latent phase, and it would come back as Epstein-Barr virus, and it's very likely that you're going to live your entire lifetime and never get Epstein-Barr.
Hope so.
But you may know somebody in their 40s that has Epstein-Barr, and I guarantee you that person has a decreased autoimmune profile, right? They're probably not supplementing with those things that we just discussed, and they very likely have a gene mutation at the MTHFR gene SNP. That single nucleotide polymorph is the one that's responsible for, basically starting the immune response. So when we talk about the coronavirus, the best expectation that I have seen, which is the World Health Organization, the CDC, in conjunction with current pandemic data, is that it will reach a official pandemic state in about 2 weeks.
And what is that? I've heard the term. What is the technical definition?
Okay, so
of
a
pandemic?
technical definition of a pandemic is that essentially the virus is everywhere. It's multi-continental, right? And it means now that there are not real safe zones. I mean, your house could be a safe zone, but now they're finding that the virus is creeping up. It's starting to spot populate, and so pandemics have a tendency to lay low and then have a wave, almost a parabolic hockey stick spike, where they explode. And they expect the peak to be in 3 months, and then 7 to 9 months for it to begin to start to fade. So again, the best thing to do for the attack and for the possible recurrence of an infection is to arm your immune system.
Right.
I mean,
it just
God
makes
gave us
sense.
everything we need to fight this virus. We just got to go and give weapons to our boys that are going to get in the fight.
Yeah.
The troops that are going to get in the fight.
So there questions. I mean, has this been valuable? I see lots of, quite a few shares. What questions might you have? Let's take, if you got time, go a couple questions.
Yeah.
Donna's asking, well, what about vitamin C?
Vitamin C is, so it's interesting. I read an article on Live Nation, Live Vitamin, that said the headline was, vitamin C will not improve your immune response to the coronavirus, and then the entire article went on to talk about how good vitamin C is for protecting against viruses.
Yeah.
So let me tell you about vitamin C. So the core of our autoimmune response, our immune attack, is going to come from what I just described to you. You can also bolster it even further by taking vitamin C. The USRDA recommends that you take 65 to 90 milligrams of vitamin C daily. I think that you should take 1,000 milligrams daily for 14 days, and then you can drop your dose down to 500 milligrams daily. What vitamin C does is it specifically arms the fatty acid lining of the cell, and it bolsters its capacity to keep foreign bodies out. It's also, it is an antioxidant, but antioxidants don't necessarily thwart viruses. But what vitamin C does, it's very interesting, is it specifically helps protect the lining of the lung. And how are most of these viruses going to get in? Through the respiratory pathway and through what's called the mucosa, which is the lining of your mouth. So 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C dropping down to 500 milligrams of vitamin C will help you. The majority of us are not clinically deficient in vitamin C, so you would only get a marginal effect by additional supplementation, which is why most of the science that I put out there, if you follow me on Instagram, I always talk about something called the lowest common denominator. What is the most that I could do with the least amount of effort?
Biggest bang.
I want the biggest bang, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm trying to get from 1 to 10, if I can get to 9 in 3 steps, and 10 is going to be 50 steps, I want to know what are the 3 steps that I can do.
Yeah.
And the 3 steps that I just told you, they're by far and away, there's nothing better that you can do to arm your immune system.
Right. We got a question here. Are the supplements that you're recommending vegan? The green lip muscle, probably not, right?
The green lip muscle is not, but the oil that the omega fatty acid that comes from that oil does come from the green lip muscle. But other than that, they are vegan. They're in gel and dye-free capsules, and there are absolutely no fillers, no binders of any kind whatsoever.
So
I can even give you the.
You're saying the capsules themselves are vegan, but the process isn't? Is that
capsule themselves are vegan, but technically the for the omega, the D is and the probiotic is, but the omega does have oil that comes from the green lip muscle.
Got it. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna ask amateur question. So what about like you see them in airports and everything, emergency? And they say 1,000 milligrams. I knew you were gonna have that.
So
it's like sugar and vitamin C.
Yeah,
right?
Sugar and vitamin C. By the way, sugar is the enemy here too.
Yeah.
Sugar will actually suppress your immune system and raise your inflammatory profile. I personally think that the Bible should say sugar is the root of all evil, not the love of money.
Yeah.
But I didn't write it, so. And I don't think it's changing anytime soon.
Yeah.
Just kidding. So the
sugar industry
the
is very mad right
emergency is better than nothing. The problem with the emergency is most of the B vitamins and the other vitamins that I see in there are the really, really cheap forms of folic acid, cheap forms of cyanocobalamin. I mean, it's the form of B12 that actually comes from the cyanide molecule. Yes, there is a form of B12 that has its roots in cyanide. So I prefer higher quality supplementation. It's just like food, right? If you're going to put something into your body and hope that it has a desired physiologic effect, then let's use the supplement that has the highest, not only the highest quality, but it has the highest targeted outcome. An emergency doesn't.
So I always like the contradictory comments.
Yeah.
So here we go.
Yeah, let's do it.
Heidi, what a crock. Vitamins are inert and don't work in isolated form. It would be better if you talked about how to get more nutrients in your diet from food, not isolated, created in a lab.
So that's actually not true. All methylation in the human body has 1 carbon and 3 hydrogens that are actually donated from other vitamins. So for example, if you supplement with methylcobalamin, then the methyl groups, remember, first of all, let's just take the vitamin methylcobalamin just so we can dispel that myth. The human body does not use nutrients in the form that we put them into the body. So when I put methylcobalamin, vitamin B12, into my body, the only thing that I'm using is the cobalamin portion of that molecule. That is actually the cobalt metal. B12 is a metal, okay? It's the cobalt metal. When you put the cobalt metal into the human body, it's called cobalamin. Only you can't put cobalamin straight into the bloodstream, it would just dissolve. So it's attached to a methyl group. And the methyl group carries the vitamin around the body. And then when you need to use that vitamin, the methyl group detaches and the cobalamin goes into a biophysiologic reaction. So the process of methylation is the process of donating methyl groups from one to the next, to the next, to the next in the methylation process. Methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase takes folic acid and reduces it into 5-methylfolate. 5-methylfolate is the only form of folic acid that your body can use. So why would you take folic acid when you could take 5-methylfolate? If you are deficient in that enzyme, MTHFR, then you have to take 5-methylfolate, or you won't have the methyl groups.
You're saying you can't get it in food.
You can get folic acid in food,
right?
But you don't get 5-methylfolate. It's your body.
It'll help you absorb it.
Correct. So it's not true that vitamins are not used in biophysiologic processes inside the body. If you didn't actually have vitamins and you can get them through supplementation, then you wouldn't have the methyl groups to donate to the methylation process. We wouldn't be able to make neurotransmitters. We wouldn't be able to make xenobiotics. We wouldn't be able to make glutathione. We wouldn't be able to make methylcobalamin, methionine, inositol, choline. None of those would be possible without proper methylation. And if you're deficient, you can absolutely get that through vitamin supplementation.
Got it.
And you're welcome to contact me. I'll give you the literature on that.
Sure. And that's one thing about Gary is you're such an insane researcher. Oh, and yeah. Do you have a photographic memory?
Clinically photographic.
Yeah. Because he's insane. He'll read an article and be like, and someone was, oh man, I lost your comment here. Dang, I had one. Yeah, Heidi's very anti-vitamins.
She is?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's read from her. I mean, look,
okay.
I don't mind that.
She says all vitamin C is made in China. Don't use it. It can have heavy metals and other contaminants.
Yeah. So again, some vitamin C is made in China. There are actually manufacturers in the U.S. that do make vitamin C. One of them is Pure Source. They're in southeastern Florida. They are actually a product manufacturer. They don't buy the raw material from China. But you're right. Even scarier is 95% of all of our antibiotics are manufactured in China.
That's scary.
95% of all of our antibiotics are manufactured in China. So what if China decided to just slam the brakes on shipping raw materials to our pharmaceutical?
How close are we to that?
Yeah.
I mean, we're close to that, right?
Guess where the virus started?
Yeah.
And guess who controls all of our antibiotics? Not that I want to build a conspiracy theory there, but there sure is one Stephen King novel.
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
And by the way, Heidi, heavy metal methylation is also done in the human body. People that have the highest levels of mercury also have deficient methylation pathways. The pathway that I just talked about, MTHFR, is a common root cause of heavy metal toxicity, because even though we can methylate lots and lots of metals very easily, copper, zinc, selenium, magnesium, cobalamin, we methylate other metals slow. We do methylate lead, we do methylate mercury, we do methylate arsenic, but those are methylated very, very slowly. If you completely shut that process down, then you get toxic levels.
Thoughts on, and I'm kind of worried to ask you questions, but I need to know.
Okay.
So colloidal silver.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on colloidal silver?
So colloidal silver.
Because I take colloidal silver.
Yeah, you can take.
Good,
look, you can take colloidal silver and other colloidal metals. There's a colloidal platinum. There's a colloidal copper.
Uh-huh.
So what they are is they're bactericidal.
Okay.
So believe it or not, the root nutrient in a lot of chemotherapeutic agents is metal. Right? It's platinum. They use platinum in chemotherapy. Why? Because we can methylate platinum and other metals at a certain rate. So let's say you had two people on a track. One guy's a sprinter, one guy's walking. Okay, the sprinter would represent a cancer cell, because what is cancer? Cancer is cellular division run amok, right? It's mitotic and meiotic division just run amok. Okay, so a cancer cell is sprinting around the track, rolling around the track. A regular cell is just walking.
Okay.
So who's going to respire more? The cancer cell. So if you put metals like platinums into the bloodstream, the cancer cell will take them in at a rate that it cannot metabolize.
So it needs to eat, basically.
Correct.
Right.
And it will die. It will become apoptotic, right? Or what's called autophagy. Whereas the regular cell will take it in, methylate it, and spit it out as waste, and will continue to walk around the track. Very much the same reason why they link high glycemic diets to cancer, because sugar is a very readily available source and converts to energy very quickly, whereas fats and proteins don't. So if you're walking, you can survive on fats and proteins. If you're sprinting, you need the high glycemic profile. That's why cancer feeds sugar. Sugar feeds cancer.
And so colloidal silver is good.
Colloidal silver is good for that. Yeah, I'm a fan of the colloidal metals. I just
Okay.
forget to take them. I spray them on I spray the copper
I
on
do
my
that
son's face because he's got acne.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we do the PRP treatments for him, the platelet-rich plasma,
Got it.
and we also do the
Cool.
metals.
All right, let's do one more here. Thoughts on traveling or flying right now?
Thoughts on traveling or flying right now? See, we're going back to what side of the fence are you on? Do you want to hide? Or
Right.
do you want to prepare?
Right.
If you're prepared, you're prepared.
Right.
And if you're exposed, you're exposed. It's not like you're exposed. It's not like volume that makes the difference here.
Right. So you're
not
saying
like-
it's no difference between neighborhood party, group of 1,000 people.
Exactly. I'm saying there's no difference between a neighborhood party and a group of 1,000 people because it's not a cumulative toxicity.
Right.
It's a single
like,
dose
oh, I got
toxicity.
hit by 3 people.
Yeah.
You
I
get
got hit
one
by
person.
3 people, I'm 3 times as sick.
Right.
No, if I got, if someone sneezed right in my mouth, it's different than...
Avoid that. Right.
Avoid that. My
Avoid
black
that.
lab did that to me 2 days ago. Right down. I woke up and his snout was right there and he gave me a blaster right to the back of the throat. And it was a bad day for him. He never did that again. But if you're just talking and I spread the coronavirus like this, or versus somebody sneezing in your mouth, it's not the volume of that viral transfer. It's not the viral load that causes the sickness. It's the exposure.
Just the exposure.
So,
right.
yeah, so you very likely are going to be exposed, whether you're exposed in mass or just exposed once. You're still exposed. So prepare for the exposure, and then live your life.
Yeah. So awesome.
Prepare for the exposure and live your
Give
life.
this guy some gratitude. I want to point out he rapped with us for like 45 minutes. Mentioned some supplements. Told him you can get them elsewhere. So it's not like it's a big pitch fest here.
No.
But I think he shared a lot of valuable information. Us helping people boost their immune system is always a good idea, I believe. And so feel free to share this if you got value. Connect with this guy, Gary Brecka, Brecka.
Yes.
And so make sure you connect with this guy. He's amazing, and I'm honored to be his friend. I'll give you finger guns. Right.
We already showed.
I know,
So
I
we
know.
already exposed
I know,
ourselves. Come
I
on,
know.
come on.
We got
there
this.
we go.
Strong like bull. And
Strong like bull.
Have an amazing day. Appreciate you tuning in, and feel free to share this. Get some people better education, and good luck out there. You guys are going to be fine. Boost that immune system and rock and roll, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you.